DNR said, sure, we can do that. So they ended up saying, going back and doing the modeling themselves. But we haven't heard back. It's not done. It's not complete. It's taking time. Part of that August 9th letter gave them until, I believe, September 15th to provide that information. But of course, in the meantime, they've decided to take on some of that work themselves. And then talking to Lucas, their division that does that work hasn't been able to complete it for different reasons. So they're waiting, and that timeline, I assume, in that letter then has been extended, or is no longer relevant. So
factually, the culvert and the road is still in place, and the hydrology report is not prepared.
Correct. Yep.
Was this, so they took out the original one they had put in already and they replaced it? Were they supposed to do that, or were they supposed to wait till the DNR gave them their paperwork?
You're supposed to wait to do the work until you get it done, but that had already been in. So the DNR had, they had been a little wishy-washy about how they, what their directive was to the applicant. And so I think at this point they're kind of in a holding pattern.
So that is still there as of today? They haven't
You can
removed
ask
that?
them. I haven't been out there since then, but I assume it is. Yep.
But the DNR wants that one gone and a different one put in.
No, they haven't said that actually in so many words. They haven't been that direct. They have, I think that they would like it gone. Although if the hydrology says that that it works, then they say that then it would be doable. I don't know that the hydrology is going to show that this is adequate. I would say that it probably isn't, if I had to guess. But I'm not the hydrologist. I'm not the expert in that area. So
According to Saratoga Township, they're actually claiming that this is changing the way the water flows and it's causing flooding on the neighbor's land.
yep. And I would say that if the hydrology is, if it doesn't meet the hydrologist specs, that would certainly, the DNR would probably agree that that's potentially the case, that could happen. So yeah.
Do you know what size the culverts or the designs of the other roads, if there are any going over this stream, are the neighbor's property, other than this one picture where it was overflowing and you couldn't see?
Right. I mean, there are, I don't know how like those handle the storm. I'm not sure.
Well, I was just curious if like this culvert, for example, is the same size as the other neighbor's culverts, or if this one is smaller.
No, I think there's some bigger ones out there.
Okay.
I think there's box culverts and, bridges and things that are larger.
Okay.
Do you know what was there before as the field road? Was it just going through the stream with
I think
a
it
few
was
rocks in it, or?
Low water ford.
Yeah,
And
okay.
is it generally a trickle like this, and like the heavy rain was?
Yeah, I
Phenomenon,
would
or-
say so. Yeah, that was not the normal, but I mean, in this day and age, big rain events are more common. But there are hydrological standards for these crossings, and that's what the DNR is looking to review and make sure that it meets. Whether those hydrological standards are good enough to actually handle this or future large rain events is that's another matter. But
So this never flooded like this before?
I have no idea. I don't know what the
I mean,
flooding
because the whole
history
thing is a
is.
floodplain, so I imagine this happened before.
Yeah, I mean the
road was raised.
floodplain is quite large here.
Yes.
And it takes up a good amount of the space between Highway 74 and the building site.
So it must have flooded sometime in the last.
That's
100
what
years.
floodplains are for.
That's what I'm getting at, yeah.
Is to do that. It's true, and to allow streams to move. And
This picture where it has this gray barn in the background, it looks like the driveway has water running over it. I mean, is that something that people that live there drive through that when there's water?
I don't know if that's common, if they're
That's the
driving
next
through it or if
question.
they're just staying.
Farms along there, they
Staying
drive
out
in
of it.
driveways through water when there's high water, or
I don't think that's common, and that's not what it's designed to do. Yeah. But I mean, large rain events, when you're getting 6, 8, 10 inches in, just a few hours, that's, you don't engineer things for a 12-inch rain, and so, yeah, I mean,
Okay, any other questions for Lou? Are you finished?
I've got a couple more.
Pictures?
I got a couple more.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
And then, so here is, again, the applicant plan. You can see the drawing on there. That's approximately where a property line would go, just to give you an idea of the parcel shape. And then the old floodplain data is in purple there. And then this is the new site plan that we came up with. The road structures, the house is the red squares to the north, the barn is to the south, and then the septic system is the black rectangle. So that gives you an idea of where things are proposed on the site.
So just a question. So the house needs a variance, but the barn does not?
That's correct. I mean, for as far as the prime soils standard goes, it's only for dwellings.
Okay.
Yep.
Is, depending on what they use the barn for, is it all set up zoning wise in case they want to put animals in there, that it's far enough away from the house and where the well's gonna be and all that kind of stuff?
Yep, it would meet all those basic requirements. If there were animals, like it was a horse barn, they'd work through the feedlot officer to get it registered. But as far as setbacks go, yes, it would meet setbacks to neighboring dwellings.
Has any staff been out there after the June rain event on the site?
Yeah, we were out there in August.
Okay. Did you see any ditches or washing coming from the valley,
Up
coming
above?
out from the barn, coming that way?
Up above. Yeah, no, it didn't look like there was scouring or erosion down the road or from that direction.
Okay.
Actually, this photo, these photos here were taken in August. So there's, they got good cover on the fields, and yeah, I mean, it looked fine from up above there. Yeah, and that's all I have. And as always, if you want to look at the criteria for approval, we haven't changed our staff report from June, so the findings that we have there from June are still there. There are 4 conditions attached to the recommendation if you were to approve it. And as always, make findings to support your decision.
Did you have any additional comment from the neighbors? Letters were sent out to everybody around surrounding them.
Yeah, we've heard from a couple of neighbors.
Is that in here?
No, I mean, we had a phone call from a neighbor, and then just really township. I think the township's been hearing from neighbors more than us.
Okay. What was the phone call? Support or against?
Not in support, concerns.
Okay. What was the address and name?
Don't have it. It was just a phone call. She didn't provide it.
what were the concerns that the neighbors are?
Just that, you're testing my memory. Essentially, I think it had to do with the stream crossing, and general concern with not getting proper permits and approvals before starting.
In general, what are the penalties in general for not getting a permit and starting?
Well, I mean,
Any, because there's, and in the last 12 years, I've seen the whole range from big dairy farms to so-called little people or miscellaneous small things ignoring the permit process, or coming in later. Has there ever been a fine or a penalty?
So it depends on what it is, so if it's a building issue that we're responsible for, then we have in our fee schedule, we have a process laid out, and I believe that if they get the permits in within a certain amount of time that we give them, then it's the permit fee, I believe, is the after the fact. If they miss that deadline, then it's double the permit fee. We were just talking about this before this meeting, and the fee schedule had changed a number of times. So I guess I'd have to refer to the fee schedule as to what it actually says. But that's essentially the process. We send a letter. We get we set deadlines for them to get the application in. If they make that deadline, the after the fact fee is less. If they miss the deadline, it's just a way. We just want to get the applications in, and we don't want to be fighting with them just to get it in. So we try to incentivize it. And so if they miss the deadline, then it's a higher fee. I think it's double the application. It's like the application fee plus the same amount for after the fact.
Does that fit into the findings as a reason for denial after the fact? Say something's built and it's...
No, I mean, the reason for denial needs to be based on those 8 criteria.
Okay, not because they
Yep.
didn't get a permit.
Yep. You're supposed to, if it comes in after the fact, even if they say they built a home and, you're looking at that application after the fact and you're looking at a built house and you're having to consider a variance request, that should be looked at as if it's not there. And just by the facts of the case based on the criteria, like any other.
Follow up on the chair's question. Criteria number 5 in the packet recites that the variance will not alter the essential character of the locality nor substantially impair the property values or the public health, safety, or welfare in the vicinity. How do we separate this road issue and what they've done to Trout Run from the class 3, class 1 to 3 soil variation request? To me, it seems like if the road being put in across the stream is concomitant with the house and the barn being constructed, it would appear that the stream could potentially impair adjacent property values as well as this property value and affect the public safety because it doesn't have the appropriate engineering.
I think the way that it is right now, you could make that case, but we don't have the information to be able to tell us that it's, that it's unreasonable the way it is. The only thing that's unreasonable is that it was built before it was they were able to do the modeling. So we really need that modeling in order to be able to say, to answer that question. But yeah, as far as are they connected? Yeah, I mean, the access is connected to the development, Yeah, and that criteria that you mentioned there is pretty broad. General health, safety, welfare it's a whole host of things. So.
But,
Yeah.
sorry.
Go ahead.
But we can't tell them that they need to take that out, even though the DNR says it here. 'Cause if it
It's
takes
not
the
our, it's
DNR
not,
like
it's not our
8
jurisdiction
months and
either.
they leave that
Yep.
in there and it happens again, then what?
Yeah,
Might
that's, Mm-hmm.
also be fine, but the fact,
Yeah.
but we can't take that into consideration.
that stream is really not our jurisdiction. So, I mean, one way to look at it, if you're either looking at approving or denying the permit, I would say that the stream, you have to assume that the stream is going to be taken care of by the DNR. And that crossing will be taken care of by the DNR. That's their responsibility and their jurisdiction. They're the ones with the experts that are going to be reviewing the hydrologic impact of it. And feel free, you guys, if you want to jump in here, but they're the ones that are the experts in this area. So I think you can make a decision either way based on the prime soils alone, and just understanding that that must be taken care of before this project can move forward.
Can we add that to the conditions? That the
Most definitely. Yeah.
DNR approval of the driveway or the stream crossing?
You could.
Any other questions for Lou? And you are finished?
I'm finished. The only other thing I'll say as far as process goes, public hearing has been closed on this. So you don't need to take public comments, but I know that there are people here. If you wish to interact with them or get more information, if you have specific questions, you can pull them up to the podium for more testimony if you wish.
Okay, thank you, Lou.
Or not.
You're not. Okay, members, yeah, the public meeting has been held. There's been some new input. And any member is free to ask a specific person a question, and otherwise, go ahead, Jordan.
I would say right now, as far as number 8 here,
Page is that?
that would be in the minute. I'm looking at the minutes on page 6 right now. Yeah, in the minutes.
Oh, the front minutes?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, from last.
I don't know if it's printed again somewhere in there, but
There's the minutes from the meeting before is printed in the table part, but that's from the meeting before that.
okay.
Yep. So page, okay.
Could you zero us in again?
It would be
You have a line
criteria number 8
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
of the,
That line 161
yeah.
in the minutes.
It says that the request does not have the effect of allowing any use that is not allowed in the zoning district, permit a lower degree of flood protection than the regulatory flood protection elevation. I mean, if that's just
You guys
referring to the house.
just check your packets again. Make sure that you're in the tabled section and not in
Not in the
the
minutes?
the minutes.
Okay.
Make sure you're into the section
The
that
minute.
pertains to this petition.
Where,
Jordan specifically,
Well, I'll go with Lou on this one
It'll be
and
in there,
move
yeah.
to page 35
where? This is
under tabled.
Is
table,
it on the bottom,
page 35?
the bottom?
Yeah, the page
Numbers
35
on the
of the
bottom.
packet.
Thank you. I just don't want you to be confusing the UNRU petition.
While
with
you're
the-
here, Lou,
Yeah.
I don't see a page.
It's a little print on the bottom.
Oh, I was looking at this.
is
Yeah.
that,
Yeah, there's different page.
Why did I-
would that be referring specifically to the dwelling in that case? That does not permit a lower degree of flood protection?
The request does not do, it would, I think it would pertain to,
wouldn't it be everything?
yeah, I think it could be looked at as the entire,
Okay.
request.
So
I
I
mean, what they're requesting is for soils and that's related to the dwelling. Usually we're talking about structures. But
but the access to the structure is part of the whole thing
Yeah,
we're working
yeah.
on here. Okay,
and you would hope though that whatever the DNR approves would meet that standard.
Yeah.
It would have to. That would be their standards by and large.
Okay.
I guess what I'm getting at then is that I don't feel like we know that this would not allow a lower degree of flood protection at the current time.
Well, I think if the house was built in the floodplain or something,
Yeah, but we don't know that that there will be an approved driveway that would not
well, you have to,
cause this. I understand it can happen after the fact.
Is that what we're deciding though, is the
no,
driveway,
we-
we're deciding the
no,
building.
no,
of the
we're,
house,
yeah,
right?
and that's what I was gonna say, but all these things factor in.
Yeah,
But our only thing to decide is where they can build on prime land, and it doesn't matter where it is, whether it's on the other side of 74 or this side is where I'm looking. And the other thing I was just gonna summarize on crossings, that in Gilmer, Gilmer Valley and East Burns Valley, what the DNR does is like, you have farmland across, you're allowed to cross, you're allowed to pour concrete. You, in the ones in Gilmer Valley, they're allowed to have a culvert under it so they don't drive through the water every time. Thanks, Lou. And that, and so I know in Gilmer Valley, and so we get high water events, they just wait or take a tractor through it. And I know, personally know that's what the situation, and same thing on 43. It used to be Lou Younger's place. There's it's the West Burns Creek, and then there's the East Burns Creek. They come together on Galling's land, and he has a crossing further up. And so generally they allow as long, but you can't put a big structure up like the one that's there with a culvert in it. Water has to be able to freely flow, as soon as the level gets up.
yeah.
So
What if you don't have a tractor and you have an emergency?
You wait, just like the ones in Gilmer Valley. Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's.
But are they farming on the other side of the stream, or are
no,
they
it's a
living
house-
on the
it's a
other side?
house. It's on Mohan Drive up and right below us.
Okay.
And there's a couple or more that cross the creek. And when it's high, they happen to have a small tractor. But otherwise, they wait, and it's generally, a couple hours,
Yeah.
it's done.
Is that Angus up there?
What?
Angus Calendar? Is that the road?
Oh, well, that may be. the
Talking
one.
about?
Yeah, it's Mohan Drive.
Anyway.
It's a town road,
Sorry.
yeah. So personally, I don't think the crossing, because of all the residences we have already that have crossings like that, I don't think it's an issue. And if the DNR is and when they do their hydraulic modeling, they will find, because just of the fact that the wild water that comes through and the whole thing is floodplain, is that structure can't stay there. But our purpose, so like for me, the crossing is really, doesn't matter. Because they can, and it's their choice.
I look at it a little differently,
Yeah.
and that is that the crossing is part of the entire package. And if we give the approval to go forward with a variance, they've got this road in. From what we have here, it looks like it's potentially causing flooding because of the size of the culvert. And I personally would feel uncomfortable approving something based on the record we have so far without an approval from the DNR. And I have some questions I'd like to ask the petitioner also, with your permission.
Right. Let's maybe just discuss a little bit more, get some of the, the concerns, so we kind of zero in on the issue, which is prime soil. And
It is, but I kind of agree with Ed, especially if they're gonna be hauling stuff to build these structures over this road that they've just constructed.
but that's not our concern technically as a board.
Well, we've got these 8 variances. Jordan has brought up number 8. I've brought up number 5. I don't see compliance with 5 or 8 at this time.
Yeah, which is subjective, of course. But I just wanted to point out too is, Eric, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to weigh in on the
Yeah, do
floodplain
that.
part, just for your
Yeah.
reference. I put up there the most current, that's not the one that's in effect, but that's the proposed. And according to the DNR and FEMA, that is the most accurate data that the county has, and it will be enacted as the new floodplain map. The purple lines that you see are the base flood. And for a crossing in the floodplain, a crossing should be no lower than 1 foot below the regulatory flood protection elevation level. The RFPE is technically 1 foot above the base flood. So if I was to just say, for example, say that this is 1096, regulatory flood protection elevation would be 1 foot above that at 1097. But then the floodplain for structure, for access to that across the stream, I believe says it can, I'd have to check the ordinance again, but it's either 1 or 2 feet below the RFPE. So they would want the grade of the driveway of the crossing perhaps to be no lower than 1094. That would meet, so that's something they'd have to look at as per the DNR floodplain standards. 2 thoughts on that. They could potentially remove everything and go like what Chairman Reddig mentioned, a low water ford or Missouri crossing where they're actually going through the water body to access that. Maybe that's a more undesirable situation for the applicants, you know, to get out to their house. Or they would wait till they got the specifications of what that culvert and what that height and what that portion is that they'd be crossing over, and they'd have to meet that by elevation. So that's the specifications that would be laid out by the DNR. In regards to this variance request, that is the sole issue. It is over 60 acres. They do not need a conditional use permit. They would, if they can meet all the standards, they are entitled to the zoning permit and septic permit for that improvement. One item of concern is that if you've seen the soil maps, just going back to maybe kind of just put another perspective on, our objective of the department is always to work with applicants to meet as thoroughly the standards of the zoning ordinance as much as possible. And we try not to have people you know, encourage them to seek loopholes or circumvent that. The house is already borderline getting close to being non-prime soil. Hypothetically, if they were to move their location, they wouldn't even need this variance if they were to shift it enough where the majority of the footprint of the house is out. And then, you know, I'm just looking at potential outcomes after we're even done here
Have you
today.
asked the applicant why it is not moved to the east?
Because that is the best grade right now. As you go up into that non-prime soil area, you're getting on steeper slopes. And there's also a drainage feature that comes in between those structures too. So just wanted to enter that into the discussion, so.
But the facts are before us, it's on prime soil.
Correct. We're going with what was been submitted
So
for
Just for our
consideration.
benefit, why do you raise the issue of it being close to non-prime soil and it could be moved?
If the applicants were to reconsider, hypothetically, it takes out of that variance category the heart of the issue and what you're looking at today.
So maybe we could ask them some questions.
Do
about
you have
it.
the elevation of the rock, the road right now? And that's pretty much level across there. Do you have the elevation of?
I
what's
do
there?
not, just the pictures and just
Yeah.
by eyeballing it.
Yeah, so we don't know how much lower. So,
Yeah.
so they could
The-
require the road to actually be a fair amount higher,
Potentially could, yeah,
except for the crossing.
yeah.
So if they decided to do what you suggest, I don't know if you suggested,
I-
but you mentioned the non-prime soil. I'm not saying you suggested, but you mentioned it. If they chose to do that, none of this would matter? And would
Well-
it go to the DNR, whoever it is that's talking about the water?
The fact of the matter, they do have to meet that driveway standard, and that's a DNR permit.
So,
We would be looking to make sure that that point has been satisfied irregardless.
so
of how
if we
this turns
approve
out.
the whole soil issue, it still goes back to the DNR approving the access.
Yeah, yep, that is something in their domain. They need a public waters permit to put a new crossing in across public
Is that,
waters.
that access drive, is that determined by it being a residence? If it was just a, just a barn or storage for farm equipment, then it's a fuel road?
I think they still would look at that irregardless of agricultural or residential, because as the concerns are, you do not want obstructions or potential of backing up, and that it, for trout purposes, fish, things of that nature.
So if this gets into the can of worms, and anybody else up or down that valley crossing and their drive is not standards, then they could all, the whole valley, everybody could be forced to raise their driveways, et cetera?
I don't know how that would
I'm
work.
just,
I don't know how that would
I'm
play
just
out.
pointing
yeah.
out.
Fall back on the DNR, wouldn't it?
No, but I'm just saying is,
Oh.
if you have the standard for one and, or to have a residence and to cross that, then you can't just make it for one person. It'd
Right.
have to be the whole floodplain valley. So I'm saying there could be a can of worms here that maybe people don't want to open, but
Like a domino effect.
yes,
Well, it would depend, I'm sure older ones would be grandfathered in.
well, not if it's
If they-
endangering the flooding and backing up water, and there'd be a liability risk if they're not meeting the, I'm just saying here,
Yeah.
so be careful where we go here.
You probably want
Okay,
Was,
I just wanted to, now, has anybody here been out to the site?
I thought.
Yeah, I had,
You have?
I have in the first time we heard it.
Yeah, okay, so you know the layout.
Yeah, what I could see from the road, I didn't head down the driveway or anything.
Yeah, because it's, well, I went there from the road and actually had a hard time finding it because I thought it was, from the way I heard, it was all built up around there. And we had so many houses and there really aren't very few. And it's, in the drive, in the permit says the driveway ends right after a culvert or a bridge, guardrails. And I was thinking that the stream was very close to the road, but it's actually quite a ways away.
Yeah,
And so it's hard to see from the road. And I think you mentioned too about possibility, but the floodplain kind of goes right up to the road, so on this side.
yeah.
And so, but looking at it, you get a, different perspective. And so, and that's why I asked that the township, because they were just verbal the other time, that they be printed out so everybody could read them and see what the township concerns are regarding this. And one of the things is, of course, the loss of prime soil. Now, Saratoga Township is a beautiful township. It's rolling. And, but I noticed there's a lot of huge fields of all soybeans and all corn and no waterways. And maybe with, minimum tillage, et cetera. But I did see one cornfield where there's definitely should have been a waterway and there was erosion. Now that's prime soil. And that's eroding, that's going down the creek. So I want to be sure here, when we're so concerned about prime soil, we also look at the whole township as far as the farming methods. Another complaint raised, which I don't think is applicable, is that whether people can buy land and farm it and that they can't make a total living from that farm, then the township statement kind of says that really shouldn't approve this or stop it. But I noticed in looking around Saratoga Township that there are people that do more than farming, and they are people that work off the farm to support the farm, because a lot of farmers maybe can't make a living off the farm itself. So I'm just trying to address some of these. I know from being on the town board in Wilson 100 years ago, literally, well, 50, 60, that very few people come to the meetings. Wilson is double the size of Saratoga Township at almost 1,200. Saratoga is 600 people. If people are very concerned, then I would expect a lot of people at the meetings. And I'm saying that the township board and everything said here and everything submitted is the town board's action and words. And so, but I'm just saying there's other people in the township besides the town board and the people that go to the town meeting. And I know from experience, and also as far as voting, I know what the voting is. Very few people vote in the town elections. In Wilson, it's maybe, if it's non-presidential, maybe 15, 20, maybe 30 people. And the fact that I'm not hearing from a lot of other people around the Saratoga Township, I just want to put it in perspective.
Well,
That the town board is not representing.
the town board is hearing from those people
Right.
and they are representing those people to us.
Yes, but I'm saying that we don't have any numbers and it's represented, it's kind of portrayed that, and also it's kind of portrayed that, and I had to go in the back roads to find, and I can see the problems with Amish, with the, with the gardens and things and this and like the parking on town roads. Maybe, and I did see horses staked in the ditch, making good use of the grass, and I can see where somebody's mowing it, might run into it. But that's a township problem that's not germane to this prime soil hearing. Our prime thing is prime soil only, and we can't look at all the consequences. And I'm saying is that I can see in the township other places where prime soil is being lost a lot more than this housing site would be lost. So that's,
Yeah, that
That's
doesn't
my
mean we can
observation.
disregard this, though.
No,
Just
and I
because
can
it's
also
happening
tell you
elsewhere.
that at least in my township, our township board switched theirs to 7:30 in the morning purposely, I've been told, because then people don't show up.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying every township does that, but I'm saying maybe they're calling because the time of their township
what,
meeting is
what township is yours?
Watoka,
What,
or
what,
Wiscoy and Watoka, yeah. So I
Yep.
miss it every time.
Mhm.
Most people are probably not there,
Mhm.
Well,
so.
I have to say that I agree with pretty much everything you said. I can't think of anything right now that I actually disagree with. And as far as the prime soil, when my husband and I farm, and, as farmers, you want to make as much money as you can from your crops.
Right.
So you don't take it lightly if you're going to take a piece of farmland out of production. So if they feel like putting their house on the very edge of this prime soil has a higher priority, how can we say no to that? It's their land. I mean, I have an issue with the water thing, but that's, like you say, that's not really our jurisdiction.
They
Mhm.
did
Yeah.
mention in here, though, that we could wait till the DNR approves it and table it until that time, instead of approving it and waiting for the DNR to approve or deny the space or the stream. And I would maybe make a motion to do that, to see the outcome of the DNR's decision.
Could I ask you to hold off on that
Sure.
motion a minute?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, are we going to hear from the petitioner?
Yes, when we're finished
Okay,
kind of summarizing and
yes.
looking, if everybody has got a lot of information, because I think maybe just covered, I have a problem, generally have a problem though with people being anonymous in their comments. And I think with the town board, if they're representing, I would like to see some numbers, and I'd like, because when we have public input here, we have names and addresses. And so it could be, they could say they represent, but that's why I was trying to make a point.
Yeah.
At town board meetings I was at, it was rare that anybody came. Just our regular town board meetings, and you would get comments and things like this. But I would just, I put credence in it, no problem, but I'm saying it's not the only input, and it might not even be 1/3 or 10%. So I'd like to see some names and numbers, and also I had to ask them to print out the thing that was done verbally, the letter, so you can read through it and see, in my sense is that the township is kind of a frustration with the land use and being taken up by people, and this is kind of the straw that breaks the camel's back. So this is it. And then I also like to point out that I think a young couple has a right to establish a farmstead. It's farm. Horses are agriculture, as far as I know, right? And when I was there looking at the site, there were horse-drawn instruments sitting, on the road, and obviously horses. So that's kind of a lot of agriculture. And if they want to choose to, to make widgets or something, it's just like other farmers. I know a lot of farmers, in fact, every so often you see in the paper, they've got other businesses going. And they've even got, corporations made up to do that. And then in their farming. So I just want to make sure it's not a double standard.
I agree.
So if everybody, and then everybody is free to ask any
Yeah, I'm ready to
questions, yeah.
hear from the petitioner.
And Ed too, probably, so. So go ahead, Jordan, if you,
Uh,
or Ed, or if you have questions for, or if they ask the petitioner to come up, then you can
I-
both.
Yeah, whoever wants to speak on behalf of the petitioner, I'd like him to come up, please.
If you wish, if not, but I mean, feel free to come up and answer questions and so that the board members can have, and state your name and address now.
I'm Furman Datweiler. It's 11638 Keller Drive, Raymond's son-in-law, married to one of his daughters.
Okay. And so,
yeah, Ed, go ahead.
So I want to focus in on two issues. One is the application to the state for the drive access. It sounded like you had approached the proper authorities and discussed the issue, did not get the permit, put the driveway in, and then had to go back and get the permit.
But we were going to we should have got a permit, but we didn't do it. Then they hold us. Then we waited 6 months. We tried 3 times to get hold of them. They didn't give us any recess. So we finally went and put it on in. And we probably shouldn't have. But then here we came for the permits. Then now we're waiting. We're still trying to get hold of him. He ignores us. So
So you don't have the permit at the moment for the access onto State Road 74?
yeah, we got it, but the culvert we don't have.
So that would be my second area of inquiry. It also sounded like you had met with the DNR. You were told what you would need in order to put a road over Trout Run. And you didn't do that. You put in what you.
We tried to meet with him and he never gave us any attention. We called 3 times. We couldn't get anything done. Finally, we just went on and put it through because we needed something for my farm machine to go through and was going through water and I couldn't do that with my new equipment.
Were you going through the stream at one time in the past?
Yeah. It had a concrete or it had a kind of a crushed rock bottom.
And your equipment went through it in the past that way, correct?
Well, yeah, we just got bought it like a year ago. Then it was,
So you knew you needed a permit, you knew you needed certain requirements to be met. You were having trouble getting someone's attention at the DNR to move forward. And would you say basically out of frustration, you just did it on your own?
well, we didn't know what to do. I mean, we tried 6 months and nothing happened. So finally the guy said he'll put it in. So we put it in.
Who said to put it in?
I said we had a guy that said he would put it in. So he put it in.
You've been asked to voluntarily remove it. Have you done that yet?
We talked to the DNR then and asked if we could wait till he gives us okay what we got to do. And he agreed to that. So now we're waiting till he signs it and says what we got to do. But like I said, we got a problem getting hold of him.
We saw some photographs of flooding, and you saw those photographs also. Is that flooding something that you've seen before the culvert in the road went in?
I'm not too familiar with that. I said I wasn't used to that area right at the time, but the neighbor told me that it happened once, like 10 years ago, that there was a flood through there, but he said it happens once in a while. So I don't know. I didn't see it before. I wasn't familiar with the area, so I don't know how it looked beforehand always. But it's dry as it can be right now.
Do you think you would press the DNR harder and be more persistent if your project was held up until you got DNR approval?
Like I said, we'll do anything we have, or we'll go whatever the DNR comes up with. If he comes up with a Missouri crossing or anything, we're willing to do work, but I mean, we gotta be able to get hold of him too.
Thank you.
Yep.
That's all I have.
Does anyone else have questions for?
No, I have none.
What
Oh.
method are you using to get a hold of the DNR? Like you writing letters? Do you have somebody making phone calls?
Phone call.
And they don't return the calls?
Don't.
or-
They don't return the calls.
And do they have a way? I know that you guys don't use phones, so how does? how do they do it?
We got like a driver's phone we can use.
Okay, so the DNR could get.
Yeah, he
hold
can,
of someone
yeah,
and
he
then
got,
let
he
you-
got our work driver's phone number. He can get hold of us any
Okay.
day he wants to.
Okay,
What, one last.
Okay, go ahead, Ed.
Thank you.
Yep. Mhm.
Mr. Johnson raised this issue that if the house was moved to the east, you wouldn't even have to be in here asking for our permission. Did you guys contemplate moving the house out of the prime soil area? What are the pros and the cons of doing that?
I guess my idea is right where the house and the barn is sitting, the hay don't grow very big, and the main reason we want it to go in there, so we don't have air conditions in our houses. So we're not too far back in the trees, so we can get a little airflow. It's kind of the reason we're sitting in there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
One more thing, Raymond, is, so there's not really good crops growing on that right now?
Right where the barn, the house is a sandy spot. Last year I had oats in it, and actually part of the there's a pasture in there that was supposed to be farmland too, and the oats didn't mount to anything, so I decided, well, I might as well put it in pasture.
So actually, it might be misclassified.
Like I said, right where the house and the barn is, there's, like a little to one way, there's nice tall grass, hay. Right there, it might get 6 inches, then it just sits there.
Yeah.
I grew up farming, that's kind of what I want to go on doing, so that's kind of the
Yeah.
reason.
All right, thank you,
Okay,
Raymond.
thanks.
Yep. And Doug?
Hi, it's Doug, the Director of Planning and Environmental Services. Just a little bit of clarity on DNR's process here. He came to your previous meeting. I don't know who was here for that.
Mhm.
But he mentioned that that they were slow in the uptake of their permit. Early on, when the petitioner requested a permit, DNR didn't have a way for them to actually fill out a paper one because they don't use a computer. And so when the DNR hydrologist was here the other day, he was saying he was taking kind of the blame for not being timely. So that's kind of how that shook out. Just thought I'd add that. The purpose of the prime soils is really just, it's the same thing with the 40-acre rule, and it's just an agricultural district, and so
Right.
it doesn't have anything more to do than that.
Okay, thank you, Doug.
I could see if they were putting their house right smack in the middle of the field and, you know.
Yeah.
It'd be different, but if they're on the edge and, you know, I don't know who determines the soil, like somebody was saying. If it's on the edge, I mean, maybe it's misclassified, maybe it's, I don't know, to me, it's their farm, and if it's on the edge, I mean, aside from the whole water issue, that's to me a separate issue. As far as the house going there, I don't have a problem. That's their decision, not ours, really. Especially if it moved 50 feet and they wouldn't even be here, it's kind of silly to even be talking about this.
It's a bit of a catch-22, because they say, well, the DNR says, well, if you don't build a house or to get the whatever, then you don't need the crossing, and we won't look at it. So, and I just reemphasize that our role is to decide whether they can build on prime, and I'm going to put a quotation marks on the prime soil. And I still maintain that because the field road's going to be there regardless. I think the flooding, and that's why I specifically asked the staff that was out there when we had this event in June, when the flood at the bottom, apparently no water came out of that because someone raised that was in the town board's objection that it was one of the things, it was either spoken or written, that they're in a gully too. And so, but apparently there's no, a big event, no water came down there that they could notice.
Well, yeah, there was no washing, but there's established.
Oh,
Grass
sure,
is
it's gonna be
there, I
drainage,
mean,
but if it
Yeah,
was a gully washer, they would have seen ditches.
You're referring to where the house is gonna be?
Yeah, and they're not right in the,
I wouldn't think they'd want to build a house if there was that situation.
yeah.
Who would want to do that
yeah,
on purpose, knowing that there could
right,
be
because.
severe washing, because then
yeah.
they've just got future problems.
I have a question for the staff.
Okay, go ahead.
Can a condition be put in a motion to approve the variance request that would require all the appropriate permits from the DNR and the appropriate stream crossing prior to construction of the house and barn?
In short, yes, I somewhat leery, when we're putting that responsibility on a state agency that's outside of our domain, but securing the permit, I guess, would be satisfaction of a condition such as that on our checklist.
Okay, thanks, Eric.
So that he's saying then, if we approve soil part, we don't have to necessarily put a condition on it. We just prove that, but then the
No, you could,
DNR
Uh,
will say yes or no to whether or not they.
No, you can put it as a condition, and I think Jordan asked that earlier too, as one of the approving, and then there's several conditions afterward that they meet, septic and all that things. And that can be one of them, that they get the permit
Before they build.
before they build their house.
Okay, but I thought that Eric just said that he doesn't like the idea of
Right,
So this memorandum right
letting the
here,
state come in and make our decisions for us.
well, it's
Well,
not making our decision,
yeah,
it's
it's
just a condition added
Not-
to our,
that takes care of some of the apprehension about the crossing and the impact on the neighbors, with the flooding and,
There's going to be some way they can engineer this to
yeah,
meet
it's a question whether they can,
DNR.
yeah.
That condition 4, that was part of the original packet, that was that condition all along, that they would have to meet the specifications for that public waters permit.
That's right, yes.
So that's already in there.
It's in
Yeah.
there.
And that would be before construction, right, Eric?
Correct. We could not issue a development certificate for the new house or barn until that was checked off.
Thank you.
Well, I would advocate that we approve it and not table it again. We've done this 3 times. And I saw also, I trust and believe that they tried to get the DNR ahead of time and they did not respond. And in fact, the staff person here that was doing it admitted that. So I think, that as far as going ahead with that, that's moot, because you do have to be able to cross your property. And they have in all the other cases I've quoted, that's how they cross. So, and it sounds from, and I will trust the petitioner again, is that, and we know and also with being dry and things like this, but the crops are growing elsewhere and they're not growing there, it's sandy. That is by no means the definition of prime soil. So technically, we have to approve it for them to go ahead at that spot. but, and technically it's prime soil. But I would advocate that we grant the variance with the conditions that are on there already. I'm not making the motion, but,
I'll make that motion.
okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, the motion has been made by Ed and seconded by Lynn to approve the variance with the conditions written. Okay,
Specifically, the 4 conditions on page 36 of the tabled.
okay, yeah, page 3 or 36, depending how you look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the driveway has to meet the standards. Yeah, it's all there. So any more discussion? Okay, if not, I will call the vote. All those in favor of granting the petition that is before us right now, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. The variance is granted. Congratulations and good luck.
So let me just
Go ahead, yeah, meeting
say
is
one
still.
thing, because there's been a lot of confusion about building, not building, what you can do and what you can't do. Be very clear that you can't build the house and the barn until you get the appropriate permit from the DNR and you come back to Winona County and meet with the planning department and get all the paperwork you need from them. So you can't leave today and start building.
Okay, I've got to read, and everybody, just wait now, I have to read the verbal. To say that all decisions by the Board of Adjustment in granting variances or in hearing appeals from any administrative order, requirement, decision, or determination shall be final, except that any aggrieved person or persons or any department or board or commission of the jurisdiction or of the state shall have the right to appeal within 30 days after receipt of the notice of the decision to the district court in the county in which the land is located on questions of law and fact. Any party that would like to submit an appeal to the decision rendered at the public hearing must do so to the district court. Planning and Environmental Services is not responsible for filing the appeal or obtaining representation by counsel for the petitioner. Next order of business.
We ever find it?
I think.
A motion to adjourn.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Jordan has made a motion to adjourn. Lynn has seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The meeting is over.